when you get more imagination, it makes you want to go deeper in so you can get more and see beautiful things. And when you explore, you get more imagination.
This is huge.
Alright, Kyle, we gonna get our tray tables stored away. We're gonna make sure that we keep the luggage in the overhead compartments, and we're gonna keep this thing moving, okay? We gotta get this plane back up and running, okay? Brother Jones,
What's the word?
you ready to pick this back up?
Yes, sir. Now, as you heard previously, there was talk about the Office of Cannabis Management. Right now, we are blessed to sit down with the brother Damian Fagon. Previously worked in the Office of Cannabis Management, but is now representing the Bronx Defenders.
Right on, right on. But happy to be here. I know you formerly were for the OCM.
Yes.
I am a proud product of the OCM's Cannabis Entrepreneur classes.
Okay.
So I've definitely taken some courses. That was my first entryway into this process, and it gave me a lot of information. So anything that was coming about there was a great resource. So thank you for that work. And I want to talk to you about some of the work that you're doing right now today, okay? First things first, though. Can you talk to me a little bit about your relationship with cannabis? Like, how'd that all come about? Like, this is a very specific place for you to land in.
Yeah, very specific.
What was the intentionality about that? Give me a little bit of that story.
So my background is economic development, agriculture, primarily in an international context. So I did a lot of work in Latin America and the Caribbean. And a lot of people don't know this. My family's got a farm in Jamaica.
Okay.
We grow oranges. And for the last 20 years, that farm's had some trouble exporting oranges off the island, making money. And I saw when I was in New York, I was in grad school, I was studying agriculture and economics. I wanted to figure out a new crop that I could bring back to the farm to bring some money in. And at the time, this is 2015, the states on the East Coast were just legalizing hemp. And so I started looking at hemp in school, studying it as kind of an industry, with the hopes of bringing it back to that farm to grow on, and bring some revenue into my family's town. But that ultimately led me down a path through cannabis. I started growing CBD hemp soon after graduating, coming out of grad school. I grew it in South Carolina, and I grew it in the Hudson Valley here in New York. And I fell in love with the cultivation process. I managed greenhouses. I grew a bunch of different strains outdoor in greenhouse. But yeah, what I saw at the time, and again, you know, I'm looking at this from an economic development standpoint. You're about to create $100 billion industry.
Yeah.
Where are my people at?
Exactly.
Where are my communities at? And my background as someone who understands the development of industries and understands, the regulations that inform who gets access to those industries. That's what ultimately led me to cannabis and working at a place like OCM.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that $100 billion industry is definitely why I started taking those classes. I was like, wait a second, what's happening right now? We're doing what?
Yeah.
And not only were there, I love the tapestry that had, because there were people who were on the legislative side. There were people who were on the side of what would be the dispensary owners, people who were coming from the legacy market. And for my friends who might not know out there, the legacy market is the market where people were coming into the interactions with some of the incarceration side, right? So they were formerly being prosecuted for the Prohibition era, but now they're learning in the same classrooms as legitimately some of the people who are writing the law.
Absolutely.
That's a fantastic room to be in, because I don't know how many of y'all have that opportunity, but I don't necessarily get to write the law next to the person who's also going to be enforcing that law every single day. That's a different type of time, different type of place. So that being in on that level is fascinating, but it's also hearing the economic power and everything that you want to take going back home. What does that mean to you, and what is that like? Where's that come from? The idea that you want to take this back and you want to bring up the entire community.
Well, I mean, let's just start with the word gentrification.
Okay.
We all know what that means in terms of housing, communities, but we don't know what that means in terms of culture. We don't often talk about what that looks like in culture, what it looks like in unregulated markets. Because Black and brown people have been selling cannabis for decades. That money has been flowing into communities. And when I say money, there was a previous pre-existing cannabis market before this store was built, before any of these legal dispensaries came up, that was worth $3 billion. That money was flowing into communities in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, upstate New York, Buffalo. A lot of it was going to Black and brown communities. So when we talked about legalization, we also were ushering in displacement, economic displacement in a lot of cases. You know, I happened to work in the South Bronx before I joined OCM and got a little understanding of the economics behind flipping a pack, basically. A lot of people find themselves in that situation selling weed from California because they're about to miss rent.
Yeah.
Because they got to make childcare payments. And so when we were all debating legalization, when we're debating the regulations for this market, how could you not involve those people in the conversation?
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of politicians and regulators who don't think about the communities and their relationship to the rules that they're creating prior to creating those rules.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my team specifically, when we were figuring out how the licensing was going to work, who was going to get licenses, how it was going to start, you know, we spent at least 4 or 5 months traveling the state, talking primarily to communities that were impacted by the war on drugs and asking them straight up, like, what do you want to see in an industry? What would you be interested in this opportunity? And we took that 4 months of feedback, a lot of it very passionate, very emotional, and it went into the rules, it went into the regulations. And ultimately that led to a situation where you have, you know, we got 400 dispensaries in the state of New York right now.
Yeah.
Probably half of those are owned by people who were, you know, have a marijuana-related conviction,
Right.
spent time in prison for marijuana. We got at least 100 Black-owned dispensaries in the state at this point. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I come from DC. I saw how gentrification kind of erased a lot of Black history in that city. And there were a lot of us in the office, a lot of us advocates in cannabis in New York who were refusing to let them do that in this space.
Yeah. So what's one of the biggest lessons that you learned about yourself when you're going out and doing these in-person interviews out in the community?
Oh, man. Ed, it's really hard to make amends for what some of these individuals experienced under Prohibition. I have a lot of formative experiences sitting across the table in Syracuse. A Black man, maybe twice my age, was telling me he'd been arrested 15 times for cannabis. He'd lost his kids. He'd lost jobs. And here I was asking him what I thought about the opportunity. And I just, it's hard to describe, like, you know, the lost time. A lot of
Yeah.
Black men and women and families had experience under Prohibition. And, you know, I tried to distill that emotion, distill that pain into, you know, objective, fact-based regulations, programs, you know, government-sponsored initiatives. But it's an impossible task. And I think that, you know, when you talk about restoring the harm from the war on drugs, that's a generational project.
Yeah.
That's 50 years at least, because that's how long they were arresting us for.
Right. It's a generational project, and the compromises that you have to make along that way have to be pretty significant.
Oh, yeah.
How do you keep your compass facing to what your due north is?
Yeah, you know, and it is so much easier to, when you legalize cannabis and you get into these rooms and these jobs, to not do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they make it very easy for you to go the other way, to give the corporations the opportunity first, and to step back from some of your social justice priorities. You know, I think in our case, and this speaks a little bit to the former executive director of the agency, Chris Alexander. We came from those communities. Those people are still in our families.
Yeah.
And when we go home, they ask us, how's it going?
Right.
And for us to go back to these communities and be like, oh, you know, we're trying, but it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to happen that way. And I think that in particular, Chris, who grew up in Jamaica, Queens, who saw stop and frisk, you know, every single day in his neighborhood, you can't do the other thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's one way or nothing.
Yeah. It's a mind-blowing thing. So at close to 40 on my side, to have gone through the stop and frisk era in Brooklyn and been stopped multiple times by the same people. It's like, you see that there is textbooks in this book bag. You know that I don't have anything else but this over here. To fast forward through to the part where there's open, I would say, industry like related events where you have a mixture of so many different types of people that come together in this industry. You have people who have been in the legacy market, fully committed to everything that was going on in the legacy market, right next to power brokers, right next to people who are coming from equity funds and all that. Seeing that all interact at the same time, I don't know how many different startups have that in the culture or have that in the tapestry. This is a fascinating place to be in.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, hold on. You're talking about Southside Jamaica, Queens. That person's discernment on what cutting cost and going into, different, like, hey, we got to have a down quarter. They're going to have a different opinion than somebody else that might be coming from a different side, but they have to figure out a way to survive and thrive in the very same industry, right?
Yep.
How important is it to help people navigate from the legacy side? What is going to happen in this legalized market? And what's some of the things that have been put into place to help them? So I don't know a lot of people from the legacy market that understood SEO out the gate.
Yeah.
That is a basic thing that you have to do in this market in order to be discovered.
Yeah. And so this speaks to something that, my work as a regulator, but also my work as a consumer in the illicit market and an entrepreneur and a nonprofit director now in the South Bronx. There are a lot of Black and brown people in New York City who know how to turn a dollar into two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They know how to make money. They may not know the paper. They may not have been shown or ever had access to the institutions that teach people how to engage with bureaucratic capitalism, paperwork, which is what running a business really is.
Absolutely.
Legal business is a lot of paperwork. It is taxes, it is payroll, it is being compliant with regulations. And so, there is an incredible skill set among a lot of young Black and brown people in this city who know how to make money. And if you're not coming at them with opportunity that they can immediately kind of access and figure out, they're going to back away from you. And so a lot of our initiatives early on just tried to normalize the online portal for applying for a license, basic language about registering your LLC.
Yeah.
And talking to legacy growers, people who ran big grows in New York City, talking, your employees need bathrooms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
You
that's the rule too.
Exactly.
And they're just like, what? Yeah, they got to wash their hands. You got to have a hand washing station.
I got to do OCM. I got to deal with OSHA. What's all of this? This is a lot of acronyms inside.
And I think the challenge is a lot of, meeting those requirements takes a lot of patience.
Yeah.
You have to set aside, you may not make money for a year in some cases, and you have to be able to, and a lot that automatically wipes out a lot of people who want to access this opportunity.
Right.
You may have to wait 6 months for that license. You may have to wait 4 months from that approval from your local community board before you can open your dispensary. And so, that requires capital, that requires money. And so that, all that training, all that education, giving licenses to them, it could ultimately lead to nothing if they can't get the paper right to make it happen.
Yeah, and being able to explain where that paper came from too. That's also a big part of it.
And taking it from the right people too. That's another thing.
Exactly. Whoa. Yeah.
What's one thing you wish more people understood about the evolution of the legacy market into the legal one?
Man, it's funny because over the years, and now I've seen this thing from, because I was at OCM the day we had 19 employees in like a little office, and now they got like 250 employees, and it's a $2 billion market. And I can remember 3 years ago, all the legacy people I was trying to get into the legal market were laughing in my face. They're like, no, we're not doing that. I don't know how y'all think you can compete. Like, it's not going to happen. But over time, the reality sets in. They're doing this. This transition is happening whether or not you prepare or not. You know what I mean? They're going to create an environment where there is legal access to cannabis in sufficient enough places where your consumers are gone. And I think especially after the pandemic, and the explosion of illicit shops in the city, a lot of the legacy, dealers and growers I knew were losing business. Like there was a huge collapse of the legacy market, 2 or 3 years ago when those illicit shops popped up everywhere.
Oh my God, they were selling deli style.
Yeah, they were selling deli style.
Ice cream trucks outside.
And so when you see that kind of saturation, like how are you going to compete?
Yeah.
Especially when consumers are starting to get confused about where the fire even's at. They can't even tell the difference sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them during that period experienced, or got tired of the volatility of the market, the pre-existing market, because it is a volatile one.
Yeah.
It's very, and to speak to some of the experiences I became familiar with, a lot of these guys have been selling weed on the unregulated market for 20 years. They got kids now. Some of those kids might be going to college. They might want to buy a house. How do you do these things if you can't open a bank account? You know what I mean? Like, and these are grown men, who have been stashing cash in their closet, their whole lives. And, I think a lot of them, as that volatility started to set into the unregulated market, the licenses started becoming available in the legal market. It just became a natural kind of like on-ramp for a lot of them, a necessary on-ramp.
A necessary on-ramp, but I would imagine with that point of entry comes some necessary learning that also has to happen, right? Yeah. Could you talk about, you touched on a little bit, maybe some of the things that people should know before deciding to come into here, because there's some things that you can run into that may have those unintended downhill consequences.
Yeah. So I'll speak a little bit about how we tried to structure the market. This is New York's, the way the market is structured is very different than New Jersey, than Connecticut, than Massachusetts. So this does get a little technical, but we created a 2-tier market. And when I say 2-tier market, it's alcohol. So if you want to open a liquor store, you cannot have any interest or ownership in Jack Daniels.
Right.
After liquor prohibition, if they hadn't created this 2-tier system where retailers are separate from suppliers, Jack Daniels would have come in and built liquor stores all over the country.
Right.
You would have, 20, 30, 100 years later, you'd only have access to Jack Daniels if that was the case. Why would they ever sell another brand? And so in a lot of other states, they have followed the model of vertical integration. So you have to grow it, you have to process it, you have to distribute it, then you retail it out of your store. That is 5 separate businesses that you need $10 million for to access. And so when we created the New York market, by splitting those two up, we created room for small businesses. And when I say small businesses, I know a young brother who opened up a dispensary upstate for $75,000. He did not need the $10 million to open up all 10 of those, 5 of those businesses. He did a friends and family raise with people in his community and was able to open a dispensary that is now selling, $3 to $5 million in cannabis a year. So entry points that allow people to get into the market with lower overhead, lower capital requirements, you will start to see Black and brown people succeed in that market. If they can get in and, create a foundation that they can build upon, that's the ticket to success. And so for a lot of people, my advice would be is think about your cannabis business as a special, like through the lens of specialization. What do you do differently?
Yeah.
What can you add to this market that only you can add in a unique, really talented way? Maybe you're good at retailing, but maybe you're better at growing. And maybe you need a small grow to start. Maybe you can think about expanding later down the line. But the advice is to start small and build. Yeah. Not this pie in the sky. I'm gonna raise $5 million. I'm gonna do everything at once. I'm gonna do all these big. No, everyone who's gone down that path is in cannabis at least has not ended well.
Yeah, I would say that extends to other areas of life too. I don't know how often you can get forward without specificity. I would say.
Well, if you have enough money in this economy,
you could if you got enough money, you can make it work for a long time. That doesn't mean it's going to be efficient.
You can buy all the specialization you need to achieve the scale.
But you know what I also see? Authenticity cuts through that.
Absolutely.
Especially in the market, especially when we talk about who are the people who are the learned people in the market. See through that very quickly.
Yeah.
I spend a healthy amount of time in a lot of different dispensaries, and I could tell you that upon a couple different questions, people are going to know whether or not you care about the plant or not. People are going to know whether or not you care about what you're saying your product benefits are or not. It's like, do you live this life? Is this something that you actually are here for, or are you just trying to push something onto me, right? And in 2 seconds, that same person had to make that same decision, probably from the legacy market. I could tell when you're lying to me. I could tell when you're not real or authentic. And the consequences that I used to have to deal with, significantly higher than me telling you, no, go somewhere else.
Yep.
Like, it's non-transferable skills that serve you in the long way that a lot of people don't make that connection to. So I do see some brilliant, some bright minds, and I see that barometer for authentic coming up and being the thing that I feel will play out the best in the long run.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people underestimated the sophistication of the consumer in New York State.
Yeah.
Like, when we were talking about legalization, we're already starting 10 years after Colorado, 8 years after California, and we've been a weed smoking state and a weed smoking city. They say they got the highest per capita amount of consumption in New York City than anywhere else in the world. But that translates to that kind of need for authenticity, for culture, for relatability. If you want a legal market to work, because our message to a lot of these other companies that wanted to come into New York, like, it's not going to work if you don't have the buy-in from the community. You can't just open up a dispensary in Harlem and tell them that it's legal now and that they got to buy your brand. They're not going to do it. And so what we do have is we have a Black-owned dispensary on 125th Street from someone who was raised up around the block, whose kids went to public school in Harlem. He's doing great. You know what I mean? Like, that store is doing fantastic right now. I was just there last week, actually. But that's the case. I mean, New Yorkers don't trust a lot of people.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. And in order to create a market, you got to understand the consumer.
Yeah.
And I think that at least at, the regulating authority in New York, the way we created the market, we had a lot of people who were born and raised in New York who've been smoking weed their whole life. And that's reflected in the businesses that you see out there now.
Yeah, the ones that come to the forefront, the ones that you get recommended the fastest, the ones that I understand they're like, hey, don't go over there. You go right here. This is where the party's at. We're gonna keep this going.
Like, this is the thing. It's like, and we, I always talked about with my team, with the social equity team at the office, the recording industry, the music industry.
Okay.
If you look at, I've just being around Fab Five was just it was incredible.
Literally just right here.
But the history is so important, especially I'm a millennial. Like, I grew up on that culture. That culture is in my blood.
Yeah,
I love it. And what recording labels did in the 90s and 2000s is they bought the culture. They were the gateway to releasing hip hop.
Yeah.
And so when you look at a borough that created hip hop, like the Bronx, hip hop is now hundreds of billions of dollars in value across the world. And the Bronx still has a lot of the same issues that they had 10, 30 years ago. And that is because a lot of that value of the industry was extracted by recording, like by labels, by recording companies that are now, big movie makers, Universal, right? All that other stuff. And so, the gatekeeping of culture, it's not, it comes off as inauthentic, and consumers can see it. And they want to buy into something real. Yeah. And you do that by licensing the real. You do that by giving space and access to real people and real entrepreneurs to create that vision.
The value was always there. It was just hard to retain that value. Yeah. Like, it's kind of you building a dam and the water just keeps getting back out. It's like, no, everybody down the valley, they drinking. They having all types of fun. It's like, we need to figure out how to pull that back. Now, I'm so happy that you connected that all the way back to the hip hop story, connected that back to the Bronx. I'm glad that you didn't say so, bro, because I was gonna pull your card immediately. Like, we gotta get this guy out of the office. We can't, yeah, exactly. We can't have you in there. Talk to me a little bit about what your work with the Cannabis Hub is like, and what's going on up in the Bronx.
Yeah. So the Bronx Cannabis Hub was started 3 years ago, and this is when we first opened up the first license for New Yorkers to apply for a retail license that had a marijuana-related conviction. You had this situation where people needed to find those arrest records. Yeah. They also needed to find evidence that they had 2 years of running a profitable business. There was just a lot of paperwork they had to collect. And at the time, our office did not have the resources or staff or anything to give advanced assistance to people to do this. Right. The Bronx Defenders had been defending people in the Bronx for marijuana-related convictions for 30 years. They had a ton of clients that they immediately contacted about this opportunity and started helping people. They partnered with pro bono attorneys in Manhattan and would bring people from these communities, bring us all your information, all the arrest records you got, your addresses, your lease, whatever you needed to show, and they helped them put the applications together. They helped 40 people get licenses. I think that the hub it became an incubator for those 40 people who got those licenses. Today we have 10 of those individuals have opened their dispensaries and are making money. We have about 10 others who are in the process, 5 to 10 in the process of opening over the next 6 months. But yeah, they just provided that wraparound support for a lot of these people. Some of these guys were still in prison when they were applying for this license. Yeah. Wow. And but all of them, none of them had ever owned a dispensary.
Yeah.
And they never raised the money to do it. They had never secured the lease to open a business.
Even the build out is such
Build
a
out, all
task.
that. And
Yeah.
they needed trustworthy partners to help them validate people that were coming at them with opportunity. In some cases, people are trying to rip them off, but also build up their confidence. In the case of the hub, the Bronx Cannabis Hub, those same 30, 40 individuals, we met quarterly. We met every few months. They were assigned pro bono attorneys, but they got to open these dispensaries together. They got to see like, oh, he's opened up his shop in the South Bronx. Like, I can really get this thing done in Brooklyn now.
Yeah.
They were able to build off of each other, and they gained confidence by watching each other move and open these stores. And so we're still working with a lot of those licensees to realize their dreams of opening these dispensaries, but at the same time trying to protect them from maybe an opportunity that they shouldn't be pursuing right now.
A little predatory.
Exactly.
I understand.
There are a lot of people who are offering them deals that they wouldn't want seen in public, as well. Say about
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of some of those horror stories.
A little bad record deal, if you will. You know?
And you know what? When we were writing the rules, we tried to write the rules as, direct and direct as possible to protect them. We have this thing called sole control. Like, these licensees need to be able to like run the day-to-day operations of these businesses.
Right.
They have to be on the checks. No one's else name can be on the checks. In a lot of other states, those protections were not in place, and those licenses were immediately sold off to other corporations. And so, yeah, I mean, the Bronx Cannabis Hub, we are a trusted ally in that community for cannabis knowledge, cannabis information, access to resources, but also we have people who know how to open dispensaries, and we will help you for free, and that's what we've been doing.
Man, that's a huge resource right there.
Definitely. I am curious, just early in the top of the conversation, where does the intersection of agriculture and economics come together? Like in school and how did that, what did you learn from both that like you continue to apply day to day?
Man, it's about turning what you have around you into economic value. And when I think of the farm in Jamaica, I think people were brought there, lived there for hundreds of years, and then when Jamaica became an independent country in the 60s, my grandfather, on the same land where they used to have a plantation, they turned that into a business. In a lot of cases, Black communities in the American South, in Jamaica, in Africa, the businesses they have, the resources they have is the dirt, it's the soil, it's the ability to cultivate, it's the knowledge of plants. And so I think knowing in my heart growing up that I was only even in the States, I was only even in America with all these opportunities because my grandfather figured out how to turn that land into something farmable, something that could produce value, something that could send my dad to a better school. That's what it means to me. And Black people have been doing that for generations. They've been, whatever's in their proximity, whatever they have access to, because they weren't given much, they're able to turn into something that can improve their lives.
Man, it's a special type of alchemy to take, the less than and make it the coveted kind of situation. I totally appreciate that. I got to go back to the Jamaican side of them turning over, the former plantations to be something that you have to go into. I want to tell you, they did the same thing in Panama too. They just ain't let us come back over to Jamaica. It's like, go over there, build that canal. You ain't coming back over here. So I got cousins on that same side too, man. They're definitely in that
We're
same.
all related.
Yeah, exactly. Them boats stopped in a lot of different spaces, And to think through that and to see where the opportunity exists today, and also still have the knowledge and the burden of all of the legacy that has come into that. I want to understand, like, what's your hope and aspiration of the next generation of people to find this industry to get?
Man, I think what we tried to create in New York, I mean, what this really is, it is a staging ground for entrepreneurial creativity. I always went into the assumption, because when you write these rules, you want a safe, regulated market that consumers can rely on, that they can know their products are going to be safe. But you don't want a stiff, stationary market.
Yeah.
And this is what has always pissed me off about legal cannabis, is that all these markets look the same. All these stores are selling the same product in the same format. And what the market we tried to cultivate here is intended to, create space for creativity. For entrepreneurs that haven't had access to this space. Because when when Black and brown people who haven't been in, because they haven't been in the cannabis industry, like, period. They have not been in the cannabis industry in any kind of significant way in any other state until New York. I want to see what they're going to build. I want to see what Black women have to say about cannabis, because I bet it's different. And so as a consumer, as a lifelong consumer of cannabis, you just want to give space for people to create a new industry that you don't know what it looks like yet. You know what I mean?
That's the part of the excitement. You'll definitely see some different strain names on the shelves. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. But also, Be Noble here, just like the fact that, Fab is out there talking about, releasing a product that's, New York Sour Diesel. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Legacy.
You sell that into, maybe Vladimir Bautista's shop up in Washington Heights. That is the culture wrapped up in and it's being given back to New Yorkers in a legal way that is, safe, reliable, but it's also like, investing in the community. Be Noble, some of their proceeds that he used to those community groups includes the Bronx Defenders.
Right.
They support our work. And so, I think it's so cool and so, beautiful to see all this opportunity being created on the back of that culture, on the back of this opportunity, and the right people are in the right place to do it.
Yeah, man. What's the biggest lesson that you learned in taking that new position as a director?
So there's for 2.5 years, I was in cannabis as a top regulator at the OCM.
Right.
So I'm looking down at a market we're crafting from scratch. Now I'm down here with licensees who are trying to figure out all that. I'm in the thick of it in a way that I haven't been before. I'm seeing the deals that they're being offered. I was in a store in Bed-Stuy yesterday. There's a young brother who's opening up a store in the middle of Bed-Stuy. He's an incredible young man, but I'm in his store and I'm seeing that all the work he's got in front of him, it's just the store is not ready yet. And, I remember sitting in the office and being like, damn, why are these stores taking so long to open?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing now I'm seeing how hard it is. And so, it does, there's a part of me that always wishes that like I could have had this experience first before going, you know what I mean? I haven't opened a dispensary before. And there aren't a lot of people who could have been in that office that had opened dispensaries before because New York just got legal.
Right.
But it does add a lot of the scale of it, the importance of it, the significance of it, the human impact of it is made much more real in my current position than when I was in government.
Scott, you got a lot of different places, Damian, that you could pull inspiration from that are going to be meaningful to your legacy. When I look through all the different connections that you mean or you pull together, what do you want to be remembered for? Because you're doing work in a lot of different spaces. What would you say this is my pinnacle work?
Oh, man. So, earlier Fab was talking about the majority leader, Crystal People-Stokes. So she is the person who found me when I was just an advocate in Harlem and I was on a radio show in Harlem. She found me, invited me to Albany, asked me to go to OCM and do the job I did. And her legacy in Buffalo, and especially for the Black community in South Buffalo, like is so important and significant and powerful. And I think what I want to think is what she saw in me is that, I come from very Black place, very Black community when DC was like 75% Black.
Chocolate City there.
That love for our people and wanting more for our people, especially in the context of all this abundance you see around us. I think that is ultimately what I'm interested in is building up Black generational wealth for a lot of communities that have been denied it for generations. So I had the honor I honored Crystal People-Stokes at an event a few weeks ago in Albany, and at least 5 or 6 Black business owners were there who now own dispensaries in Albany in the capital region. And just being with them and being with her and seeing what we're building and seeing what's happening out there in the market, I mean, that's enough for me.
That's beautiful. Is there any, like you talked about the incubator space, are there any proud graduate stories that you could share?
Oh, yeah. Man, I got one. Greg and Mika. Greg is just an incredible man. He's a card licensee, spent 15 years in prison, has 8 kids. Greg and Mika, they're probably up there, 50s, 60s, but they didn't have experience opening a retail store before. They now have one of the top selling retail stores in Rockland County.
Wow.
Probably a $10 million store.
Jeez.
They came through our incubator. They were never that sure about actually this. You know, there was a lot of convincing to even get them to apply. I think, from what I'm told from back then, and then this journey of 3 years, you know, injunctions, delays, challenges, difficulties, and now he's the guy in Rockland County, you know, meeting with local leaders to talk about his dispensary and pushing legal cannabis for the first time in a lot of these communities up there, and more conservative communities.
Right.
And yeah, it's to go from his incredible story of resilience and you know, a lot of trauma too, to now having this incredibly successful dispensary that he and his wife are running together, and their kids are involved. I mean, there are hundreds of those stories happening in the market right now.
Yeah.
And their stories will get told as time goes on. But yeah, I'm just really proud of them.
Man, that is your generational wealth wish. That you have an example of that. That's what's up.
I do. And
Congrats to that, brother.
thank you,
Congrats.
thank you. I'm very happy for them. And yeah, but you know, that isn't to say that there aren't also stories of people I've helped and are working with now that are just breaking even.
Yeah.
And that is the story of dispensary ownership in a lot of cases.
It's dispensary ownership and it's entrepreneurialism. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people don't talk about the not so pretty parts of this. You know,
Uh-huh.
some of the things that are a little bit more tricky, a little sticky. You know, some of the things that you have to kind of wade your way through. Like you may mention a couple of different times, different stoppages in the process due to different legalization or different legal things happening. Is there anything that you would say? You would see people needing to take into consideration before they jump into this space?
Well, one, don't let anyone tell you it's not like any other industry. Sometimes, like retail's retail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that the complexities of dispensary ownership do kind of scare people away who would probably be pretty good at it, because you're just selling a product. Once you break it down to, you know, the cost of the, you know, purchasing it wholesale,
Yeah.
your overhead with staff, your lease, you know, it's a numbers game that a lot of people can figure out. I will say that it's a competitive space there, especially in New York and especially in New York City. And if you want to think about the larger goals where this industry is really headed, it's brands.
Yeah.
If you walk into any liquor store, the most valuable thing you'll see in that liquor store is on the shelf. The liquor store, we're a $2 million business. It's good business, good small business for anyone to have. But you know, the brands are represented by multi-billion-dollar houses of brands, and there's a lot of people fighting over who's going to be on that shelf, who's going to have the shelf. And I think that especially in the initial years of any legal market, that's where the competition is at its fiercest. New York legal cannabis is not going anywhere. And I've tried to explain that to a lot of communities who aren't ready yet to access this opportunity. There's going to be another 100 years of legal cannabis. And that good idea that you haven't come up with yet, it'll be good now, it'll be good in 5-10 years as well. And what we really try to ensure that people understand is that this industry wasn't created to just like be created, then it's over, then it's closed off. There should be multiple access points for many years to come. And so I think timing is everything with this. You know, right now it's a very competitive time, but it won't be forever. And especially if someone's got a good idea, I think that it'll have runway 5 years from now too.
Listen, I know some entrepreneurial brothers that have a bunch of good ideas. May even come up with a brand or not. Like if I was, let's just say, ideologically thinking about a specific license that I could jump into, you know, with the resources that I have at hand, is there like a space that is less competitive that I could think about getting into the licensing?
Yeah, a brand side, white labeling, like Be Noble right now. I think that there's still significant opportunities there, especially when you think about now we got 430 dispensaries across the state. They're all looking to compete with one another by attracting consumers into their stores.
Right.
They're competing with one another to be that spot. You get the new brands. So, you know, if you have an idea for a brand, something that can differentiate a strain, or even just your story, the person who, you know, produced it.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of stores in Brooklyn right now that I bet would be able to sell a lot more brands if they had, you know, cannabis from, you know, a Black woman-owned company. because I can see these consumers coming in asking about that.
Yeah.
Who grew this? Are they from Brooklyn?
Where's it coming? Where's it getting processed? All
Yeah,
that
and
stuff.
so if you can figure out how to create a good brand, market it well, use social media, a lot of young people know how to do all this.
Right.
The cost for getting in the game is really just paying a processor, producer, cultivator to make your product, put it in your bag, and get it on the shelf.
What would you roughly?
$50,000, probably. I mean, that's the lowest entry point. It's a lot, but
Yeah.
that is probably one of the lower entry points for getting into the market. And I'm not saying it's a sure thing, but it's less risky than building out a retail store,
Yeah.
building out a grow. And there will be more licenses to come in the years to come that are intended for people to have, especially social equity applicants to have access to, including on-site consumption, including the events license, which I know my people can do.
Yeah.
There is an events license coming, and I think people remember there was a time where we were doing farmers markets in New York,
Right.
where they could do pop-up retail.
Right.
That is in the law, and in the next 6 to 8 months, they'll probably release an application for retailers to actually do events, so they can go to the concert. They can do a pop-up retail situation
Yeah.
at Afropunk.
Yeah.
And they're going to need people to figure out how to coordinate those events, create those events. And so I do think that's going to be a really accessible entry point as well for people.
No problem. I'm gonna need you to email me about that immediately.
It sounds lit, right?
Yeah, it sounds like the party that I need to be at.
So
I understand where
here's
you're
the
going.
business idea that this events license is also supposed to touch on weddings.
Okay.
Weddings, birthday party. When you get you get a liquor license, a temporary liquor license.
Yeah.
that will exist for cannabis.
The Canna Weddings coming to a pop up near you.
I
think-
tried it at my wedding, sold out immediately, gone immediately, gone immediately.
I love it, man. I love it. I got my brain is thinking about a lot of different stuff, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, brother. I do want to be respectful. I think we did end off on a solid puffing process with Fat Five Freddy, so I only got to feel right to ask you if you
Yeah, man, we gotta
participate
get him
in this
on.
puffing process game real
Pick
quick.
a card, any card,
What's this process? That's what I'm about to process this.
You gonna
Puff
process the question,
and
ponder,
process.
if you will. Uh-oh. You want to take another card? Get another card. You're going to figure out a different card.
Oh, my bad.
The process is
No, it's where is it? How do I feel about where I am now? 5 years ago, where did I think I would be, and how I feel about where I am now? And that's the craziest question to me because I thought about it coming over here.
Uh-huh.
The fact that I was even invited to a place to talk that Freddie was talking at. Yeah, no, I'd be very happy. I'd be very proud. But I also would be very proud of the plant because the plant brought me here.
Yeah.
And cannabis has always just been something that I think 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I may not have had enough respect for it. I was always consuming it. I loved it. I didn't think about who grew it. I didn't think about where I bought it. I didn't think about the impact that buying process had on other communities. Once I started to understand that and also grow it, because growing it is just, you develop a beautiful relationship with the plant when you grow it. I have a much deeper respect for it now and the people who are in this industry than I did 5 years ago.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. It continues to evolve with you as you grow, and hopefully you're growing into all these different spaces. If I could ask you one consumption-based question.
Oh, yeah.
Are you flower? Are you a concentrate? So you go
I got a dry vaporizer for flower.
dryer vape? Okay. I definitely
Don't
like
the smell.
I understand. Listen, you got to keep a happy house. I understand.
So that's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Good terps profile, though, with
Oh,
the
yeah.
dryer
Yeah,
vape.
no, I can still taste the flavor. And yeah, it's quick too. You can take your time with it.
Yeah.
It could be a 30-second situation.
Favorite location that you're participating in this, and what's the scene? Set the vista for me, if you will.
Well, you're not allowed to smoke there, but
Don't get indicted. It's
right
okay.
before
We'll
you
keep
go
that
to
off.
Central Park, on the sidewalk outside Central Park,
Yep.
I go running in Central Park all the time.
A respectable distance
As
away from there.
respectable
Yeah,
distance from other people, too.
Totally get it.
I do. That's where my pre-rolls are at, or I'll smoke. But for running,
Yeah.
If I'm running through Central Park, weather's nice.
Yeah.
After I smoke, yeah.
Talk to me about. So we are health and wellness people. I know I'm gonna let you go in a second. Talk to me about your relationship with running post cannabis use.
It's just. It's so much better. I mean, and a lot of people say this who lift and smoke, but
Mhm.
there's a mind body connection that gets strengthened when you're high.
Proprioception. Yeah, we tying in.
Like I can feel the tightness of my muscles in ways I couldn't if I.
Yeah.
And I'm less up here and I'm more in here.
Yeah.
And I think that is, if you're exercising, if you're playing a sport, I don't think it helps with basketball.
We've seen some we've seen some conflicting information on that one.
No, it does not help with basketball. Man. I tried that in like actual games. And
Like, you shooting at the wrong hoop, man. What's going on? It's like, get back on defense. What are you doing?
It helps with it helps with running, with swimming, with anything long distance that takes time and focus.
Yeah.
And you don't want to just be like, your mind racing a mile a minute thinking about all the things you got to do. You want to focus on the park, and man, the leaves are changing colors.
Being in the moment.
Yeah, you're getting faster. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you want to be thinking about.
But are you stretching with it is the question.
Stretching before and after. I'm almost 40, brother.
Dang, I'm on that same team.
You know? Yeah. But one of the main things that I do is I started smoking and stretching in college. Like I played basketball. I had 2 knee surgeries, and having that proprioception, having that feel to be able to be like, oh, my quads, I need to roll, and teaching that to people has been mind blowing,
Yo, this just happened yesterday. Halliburton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
calf was
Unfortunate.
His calf was tight. He plays in Game 7. His Achilles tears.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like, stretching. Yeah, that mindful bodiness, like it can protect you from.
Well, I don't know if you know, but the good folks over here at Off the Strength do an actual roll up and roll out class where you're taking foam rollers and you're doing soft tissue myofascial release. So we're going to get into the nerdy stuff for a second, okay? I'm going to talk nerdy to you folks out here, all right? So me and this gentleman over here met in college taking exercise physiology, right? So we're giving you some deep science, right? You're going to get the deep science on how to floss basically your muscles when you tap in with this gentleman over on this side. So please do exchange some information, because we got to keep you out there running the right way. And I got to make sure that you keep running so I can start running and catch up with what you was just talking about a little earlier, all right?
Be injury free.
All of that. My brother, could you please let everybody know where they could find you, how they could keep up with what's going on, and how they can find out even more about the whole licensing process?
Yeah. BronxCannabisHub.org. You can find us there or on Instagram. And we are helping people in the Bronx, all over the city, access these opportunities, build their businesses, protect what we've built, protect this market, ensure that it fairly represents the communities that they're selling cannabis in. And so you can hit us up there. And thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for coming through. Let's make some noise one more time for the brother Damian, please, please, please.